Inside this box is a BMPCC OG that I bought on eBay for $150. Now, it was listed as untested. I have no idea if it even works, so we're going to find out together if this was the deal of the day or a total waste of money. Now, before we dive into it, I want to talk a little bit about why I am even making this video. I'm not the unboxing type. Several years ago, when I first started talking about the BMPCC OG, I made the statement that it is the best production camera for the low-budget filmmaker. You can easily pick up one of these guys for about $350. Since then, I've been constantly hit by people saying that that is totally outrageous. You cannot find these cameras that cheaply anymore. Now, granted, I'll say in the past years, they have come up a little bit, but I still think you can definitely find these for a fair price of around $400 to $500 if you know how to look. Now, obviously, this is quite a bit less than that, $150. This is not the first time I've tracked one of these down for a price in that range. So I want to talk about how you actually go about finding these cameras at the price point that I talk about. Now, like I said, this isn't the first time I've bought one of these for such a low price, and the reason why I feel fairly confident in buying this one for the price that I did. Back when I was designing the camera cage for the BMPCC OG, I really wanted to find just a dead broken model that I could give to my model builder for test fitting as we were 3D printing the cages and checking fitment and whatnot. I wanted my builder to have one in hand, so I spent a lot of time trying to track one of these down that I knew was broken, that I could buy cheaply, send off, and not worry about having spent the money sending him one that works that just sort of sits on the shelf. So the first one I bought stated that it did not work. The seller stated that they couldn't get it to power on. But when the camera arrived, I thought, why not? Let's just power this thing up and see if it works. Plugged in a battery, popped in a card, and the camera powered on. So I thought, well, let's check the next Achilles heel here. Plugged into the HDMI port, and it was sending out a signal, and I realized that I had picked up a fully functioning BMPCC OG for a steal of a price. Now, that was obviously great to have a camera that worked, but it also meant that I no longer had the cheap camera that I wanted to for the purpose of sending off to my builder for using for tests. Sold that camera, waited around, found another one that popped up that also said it probably did not work or was untested for, again, $150. Bought it. Same thing. It arrived, I checked it out, and it worked. So my confidence is fairly high that it might be the case with this one as well. And I'll tell you a couple of things that I looked for prior to buying this that helps make me feel a little bit more confident that this is going to be something that works. Once we open this up, first thing we're going to do is plug a battery into it, plug a screen into it, and pop a memory card into it and test those three kind of big things that often are the issues with these cameras when buying used. So uncut, we're going to open this box and see just what we got. Obviously lots of popcorn in here. Normally I wouldn't make a mess like this, but I want to, like I said, try and do this as uncut as possible. All right, so here's the camera itself. Upon initial look, it seems to be in really nice shape. Not a whole lot of damage to it. There is a battery inside. The battery is not bloated. Just gonna pop that back in for now. And like I said, first thing we're gonna do is plug in some power. And turn on the camera. And it's powered on. So for being untested, so far so good. We actually have a working screen, a working camera. Next thing I'm going to do is plug a little monitor into it, and I'm getting a signal out of it. You can see the screen overlays. I'm going to grab a lens real quick. Actually, I'm just going to pop the cover of this so we can be sure that there you see that the HDMI is working properly. Now, because I don't want to be tangled up in here and damage anything, I'm going to unplug it for now. And let's pop in a card and see what we get. And it says ready. We are good to go. 51 minutes on the card, stating in ProRes. I'm going to switch this over to RAW. It is switched over and again says ready on the battery, 15 minutes recording RAW. And there you go. Fully functional BMPCC OG for $150 on eBay. For those of you out there that are constantly saying you cannot find these cameras for cheap, this is now my third example of picking one of these up for under $200. Obviously that's a rarity, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you find these in a more normal price range, in that $400 to $500 range, because like I said, as much as you want to argue out there that they cannot find these for that price anymore, you can, and I will tell you how. So to talk for a minute about why I felt confident buying this, even though it stated that it was untested, and had a pretty good feeling that I was not going to be buying a total lemon of a camera. First and foremost, it was not being sold by a photographer, by somebody who understands cameras. I do know people in the resale game. They go out, they buy storage units, they buy boxes pulled from estate sales. They go to estate sales and they will find cameras. They'll find stuff like this, and they're not going to take the time to buy the batteries, buy the adapter plates, buy the cables, track down all this stuff just to test a camera, just that they're planning to sell. Who knows what they paid for it, but I'm sure that $150 in their mind was something that was going to cover their bases and at least turn a good profit for them, regardless if it worked or not. And again, they don't have to take the time to test it. So when I saw this listing, I went and I looked at the store. The seller had a good review rating. And then I looked at their other items that were for sale, and there were things in there like drill drivers, dishes, clothes. So again, it was clear this was just your average reseller and not somebody that was in the camera game. Had this been somebody who was listing a lot of cameras, had the ability to test this camera, and they were saying untested to sort of relieve themselves of the burden of having to say it's a broken camera in the event that it was a broken camera, I would be a little bit more wary about taking the chances on buying it. Another indicator is a pawn shop. Sometimes you'll find pawn shops that are selling these things. Again, somebody pawned one off. They don't have the means of testing it. They don't really know what it is they have. They might say things like, put a memory card in and it didn't read it. Well, a lot of us know that most of the memory cards on the market don't work with this camera. It takes a special one. So if someone's selling this saying, oh, it doesn't work because of memory card issues, or it doesn't work because the battery that I put inside of it doesn't power the camera, meaning they don't have an external source to power it. And a lot of these batteries don't hold much juice. They don't have a means of charging them. So these are elements that even if they say it doesn't work and they disclose that, there's a good chance that you may still be getting a workable camera. Now, like I said, these deals do not come across super often, but given that I've now done it 3 times where I found cameras for this price and they've all worked, and this is all within the last 9 months, 12 months, but there are some of those indicating factors out there that if you know these cameras, you know the issues that the seller might be having with it, or the seller does not appear to be somebody that knows these cameras very well, you can get yourself a pretty dang good deal on one of these even today. So beyond that, I do want to talk about the more reasonable priced cameras. The first thing you need to remember is that just because a camera is listed for a price does not mean it sells for that price. When you look on eBay for these cameras, BMPCC OG, go into your settings and change the settings to display units that have sold. This will display the sale prices and you'll get a better gauge on what these cameras are actually selling for, not just what they're listed for. Just because you go on and look and you don't see these listed for that $400 price doesn't mean they don't exist. Keep in mind, there are a lot of people out there looking for these cameras. You got to be quick. When a deal pops up, it's going to go fast. So the thing you have to really do in order to score one of these deals is to be constantly checking eBay and looking once a day, a couple times a week. That's not going to do it. You need to be looking at these maybe once every hour, just refreshing BMPCC OG, or even just Blackmagic. If you put in Blackmagic, change your settings to newly listed, and just keep refreshing that every hour, every half hour, depending on how much you want one of these. That's going to be the way that you're going to find these coming up as a deal, because again, if it is a deal, it's not going to last long. So just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean they don't exist. Now, sometimes you can score one of these for a good price in an auction. I've actually found, though, that the better deals are in the buy it now category. Oftentimes auctions, heat of the moment, things will go for much higher prices than they're really worth. People kind of don't know what it is they're really buying and they'll spend too much. So if you're willing to take your time, you'll find that you get a lot better deals in the buy it now category. Now, the third way to really score a deal on one of these that may not seem so apparent at first is buying them within a kit. Now, again, a lot of times you'll see these listed for high prices, $900, $800, $700, take your pick. But they'll include things that up that value. They'll have a cage, they'll have a couple of lenses, they'll have some spare batteries, memory cards, that's a big one. And a lot of these elements you don't have to keep. So let's say you buy a kit for $850. You got a camera, you got a cage, and a couple of lenses. You're able to sell that cage because maybe you've already got one or you don't want one for $150. You're able to sell both those lenses for $100 each. That's $350 off of that $850 price. And now you've got yourself that $500 camera. Now this obviously plays across the board depending on what the price is and what's included. Think about what you need, what you don't need, what you can resell. And that can again work for you if you're also again willing to take your time to unload some of that stuff to get you that deal that you're after. So all in all, I stand by what I said. This is one of the best cameras, I think, out there for the beginning filmmaker, even for the advanced filmmaker who wants something a little bit different, a little bit more simplified. It's one of the best budget options out there, given what you're getting. Full cinema DNG RAW, 1080p, very beautiful color science, very beautiful look, amazing price, an amazing camera. If you're interested in this camera, I hope this video helps you in finding that deal, getting you into the market on one of these. If you need help learning how to use this camera and getting its full potential out of it, check out some of my other videos. Don't get discouraged. Again, if you're looking and you're not seeing the deal that you want, just take your time, relax. You got to work for some of these deals. Again, the listing price is not always the sale price. If you're persistent, you know how to search for the deals, and you allow yourself the time you need to find one good, and you do a little bit of homework and learn how to sniff out the really good deals when they come up, it will definitely work in your advantage. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. Please feel free to leave any questions or comments below, and we'll see you next time.